Good morning, all of you. Our next session, that is the kinetics of complex reactions. See, this complex reactions means complex reactions. See, complex reactions means those reactions which will be taking place in a series of steps. There will be so many steps involved to form the products instead of a single step. Okay, instead of a single step, there will be a series of steps involved. So such reactions we can call it as complex reactions. Okay, and also normally this kinetic study, chemical kinetics, it is a very complicated one because the reactions will be having several steps, isn't it? So since they are following so many steps, it will be following a series of steps. The kinetics of the reactions will be much more complex. You have to in your syllabus you have to have the qualitative idea of this complex reactions. That means there no need of derivations is required for you. So you have to study the definitions and also one or two examples for all these reactions. Okay, and also this will be asked in section B part for 2 marks sometimes, or for 3 marks. Okay, section B or section C, these questions might be asked. Okay, so this is also a very important topic. This definitions is also very important. So the different types of complex reactions are, you have to study 3 different types of complex reactions, that is opposing or reversible reaction. Opposing or reversible reaction. Then the second one, that is the consecutive reaction. Consecutive reaction. And the third one, that is the parallel or side reaction. Parallel or side reaction. So these are the 3 important complex reactions that you have to study. The first one, opposing or reversible reaction. Second one, consecutive reaction. And the third one, parallel or side reaction. Then we can go through one by one. The first one, that is the opposing or reversible reaction. Opposing or reversible reaction. See, as you know, what is a reversible reaction? The reactions in which the reactants combine to form the products, and again the products will be combining together to form the reactant. So such type of reactions, they are called as the reversible or opposing reactions. Okay, products formed will react to form or the products formed react to give back the reactants. Okay, so that is the opposing or reversible reaction. So there will be a forward reaction as well as a backward reaction, isn't it? There will be a forward reaction as well as a backward reaction in the case of opposing or reversible reaction, and also we will be representing it by a reversible arrow. And also at equilibrium, what happens? The rates of the two reaction, that is the rate of the forward reaction and the rate of the backward reaction, becomes equal at equilibrium, isn't it? At equilibrium, the rate of the forward reaction will be equal to the rate of the backward reaction. RF is equal to RB at equilibrium. RF means it is the rate of forward reaction, and RB, it is the rate of backward reaction. So this situation, that is called as the chemical equilibrium, isn't it? At which RF is equal to RB, that situation, it is called as the chemical equilibrium. Chemical equilibrium. RF is equal to RB. And also normally we are representing this reversible reaction in terms of, if A reversibly giving B, then the forward the rate constant of the forward reaction, let it be K1, and the rate constant of the backward reaction, let it be K inverse. Okay, so K1 is the rate constant of the forward reaction, and K inverse, let it be the rate constant of the backward reaction. And also there is an expression which is given in your textbook for calculating this K1 plus K inverse. That formula also you have to study. K1 plus K inverse, this is the formula. K1 plus K inverse, that is equal to 1 by T into ln XC divided by XC minus X. This is the formula for calculating the rate constants of forward as well as backward reaction. That is K1 plus K inverse, that is equal to 1 by T ln Xc divided by X. K1 is the rate constant of forward, K inverse rate constant of backward reaction, T is the time, and Xc it is the concentration of B at equilibrium. Xc is the concentration of B at equilibrium. Then what about X? X is the moles reacted after a time T. So you have to write all the terms involved also. I am writing only Xc, but you have to write all these terms. Okay, you have to write all the expansion of these terms. So Xc it is the concentration of B at equilibrium. So this is the formula for calculating the rate constants of forward as well as backward reaction. K1 plus K inverse is equal to 1 by T into ln Xc divided by Xc minus X. Okay, so this equation, this is the expression for a first order reaction. Okay, this expression it is for a first order reaction, and for other orders this equation will be changing. Okay, so you have to study this reaction also, this equation also. Then we can go move on to the next type of reaction, that is the consecutive reaction. Okay, consecutive reaction, second one. Consecutive reaction. See, consecutive reaction means the reactants will be converted to products through different steps, or there will be some intermediate steps for the reaction to proceed. Intermediate steps for the reaction to proceed. That means some intermediates will be formed in between the conversion of reactants to products. Okay, for example, A it is converted to B, then B it is again converted to C. So here what is the intermediate formed? It is B, isn't it? So such type of reactions we can call it as a consecutive reaction. That means the reactions which proceed from reactants to products through one or more intermediate steps. Okay, through one or more intermediate steps. So such type of reactions we can call it as a consecutive reaction, A giving B giving C. So here let the rate of this first reaction, that is A to B, let it be K1, and for the next step, for the transfer from B to C, for the conversion of B to C, let it be K1 dash. Okay, so this is the consecutive reaction. See, if two conditions are also there. If K1 is very much greater than K1 dash, what happens? The formation of C, that is K1 is very much greater than K1 dash, means the formation of formation of B will control the overall rate of the reaction. Okay, K1 is very much greater than K1 dash. The formation of B, that means this reaction rate will be much faster, isn't it? This reaction or K1 will be very much greater, so this A to B, conversion of A to B will be very fast. So the reaction will depends upon the formation of B. Okay. Not B, it is C. That is, if K1 is greater than K1 dash, the formation of B will be faster. So the overall rate will depends upon the formation of C. Slower step, isn't it? So the formation of C from B will control the overall rate of the reaction. Normally rate is determined by the slowest step, isn't it? Rate determining step will be the slowest step. Okay, so if K1 is greater than K1 dash, means this rate of the this step will be much faster. So comparatively the slower step will be from B to C, isn't it? So the rate of formation of C will depends upon the overall order of the reaction. The rate of formation of C favors or determines the overall order of the reaction. Rate of formation of C determines the overall order of the reaction. Is it clear? See, suppose if K1 is very much greater than K1 dash. K1 greater means the formation of A to B will be very fast and B to C will be slower while comparing with this step. So what happens? The order depends upon the rate of formation of C, since the rate determining step will be the slowest step. Okay. Then 1 or 2 examples you have to study. Examples of consecutive reactions. The first one, that is the decomposition of sodium hypochlorite. Decomposition of sodium hypochlorite. Decomposition of sodium hypochlorite. This reaction, it involves 2 steps. Sodium hypochlorite, what is the formula? NaClO. So the first step is that 2NaClO, sodium hypochlorite, that is a slow step, and the rate constant, let it be K1. It will be decomposing to NaCl plus NaClO2. Okay, sodium chloride plus sodium chloride. This is sodium chloride. Sodium chloride. So this is the first step. Then the second step is that again the decomposition of this particular compound, then again NaClO, another molecule of NaClO will be combining with this sodium chloride, NaClO2. So that is the next step, that is K1 dash. The rate constant, let it be K1 dash, and it is a faster step while comparing with that of the previous one, the first step. Again, it will be forming NaCl plus NaClO3. NaClO3 is sodium chlorate. NaClO3 is sodium chlorate. Okay, so these are the 2 steps involved. Sodium hypochlorite decomposes to sodium chloride and sodium chloride, ITE. Then in the next step, sodium hypochlorite and sodium chloride will be reacting to give sodium chloride and sodium chlorate. So this is a series of reactions. 2 steps are involved. So this is an example for consecutive reaction. Then one more example it is also given. See here in this, which one is the rate determining step, A or B? Which one is the rate determining step? Rate determining step will be the slowest step. So it will be, the first one will be the rate determining step. Rate determining step will be step A. Okay. First one, that is the slower step. Then again one more example. Acid hydrolysis of diethyl adipage. Acid hydrolysis of diethyl adipage. See here, what is adipic acid? Adipic acid is CH2 4 times COOH, COOH, isn't it? This is adipic acid. Adipic means it is an ester, diester. Okay, so diethyl adipate means the formula, it is like this: CH2 4 times COO C2H5 instead of H, O C2H5 will be coming, isn't it? COO C2H5. This is diethyl adipate. So the first step, that is the hydrolysis. So in the first step, one of the ester group will be hydrolyzed to form acid group. Okay, so CH2 4 times COOH, then again COO C2H5. Then in the second step, it is K1 dash. It will be CH2 4 times, both the groups becomes acid, COOH. Okay, so this is the acid hydrolysis of diethyl adipage. Clear? So these are the 2 examples for consecutive reaction. So you have to study these 2 examples also. Then the next one, the third category. What is the third one? That is the parallel or side reaction. Third one, parallel or side reaction. See here, the reacting molecules. For example, first of all I will be writing one example. A giving B and A giving C. Okay, so the reactant molecule here it is A, and through one step the reactant molecule it is converting to B, and through another step it will be converting to another product. Okay, so the first one let it be K1 and the second one let it be K1 dash. Okay, so here the reacting molecules react, or it will be decomposing in different ways. Here two different ways are there. It will be reacting in two different ways to give different products. That is, here it is reacting through the step K1 to form the reactant B, product B, and then again through another step it will be converting to the product C. Okay, so the reaction will be going on through different steps or through different types, and we will be having different products. Okay, so the highest yield, through which step if we are getting the highest yield. Okay, suppose if B has got the highest yield, then we can call it as it is the main reaction. Okay, through which step if we are getting the highest yield, we can call it as the main reaction, and for smaller yield we can call it as the sub reaction. Okay, or side reaction. Highest yield it is called as the main reaction, and for the smaller yield we can call it as the side reaction. Okay, see, suppose if we will be having B with a higher yield, we can call it as this particular rate, that is A to B, conversion of A to B with rate constant K1, it is called as the main reaction, and this one as the sub reaction, or vice versa. Okay, so highest yield will be main and the smaller yield will be the side reaction. Okay, then so if we in this case if B is having higher yield, then what about the rate? K1 will be greater than K1 dash, isn't it? K1 will be greater than K1 dash. Then the reaction A to B, it is called as the main reaction, and the reaction A to C, it is called as the side reaction. Okay, B is the higher yield, and if C is the higher yield, just the reverse. Okay, then one more case is there, that is if K1 is equal to K1 dash. Okay, if K1 is equal to or is approximately equal to K1 dash, then we can say that it is a parallel reaction. It is a parallel or side reaction. Then the reaction we can call it as a parallel or side reaction if K1 is equal to K1 dash. Okay. Then one formula is also there, K1 divided by K1 dash, that is equal to R1 by R2, where R1 it is the yield of product B, divided by R2 yield of product C. R2 yield of product C. Okay, so this is the formula for calculating this parallel or side reaction. If K1 is equal to K1 dash, it is a parallel or side reaction, and it can be calculated by this ratio. K1 by K1 dash is equal to R1 by R2, that is equal to yield of product B divided by yield of product C. Okay, so then we can move on to some of the examples for this reaction. Examples of parallel reactions or side reactions. The first one, that is the nitration of phenol. Nitration of phenol. C6H5OH. Through the first step K1, it will be converting to phenol. On nitration, we will be having orthonitrophenol, isn't it? OH at the ortho position, that is at the second position, there will be an NO2 group. This is orthonitrophenol. So this is one step, or through a different step K1 dash, we will be having paranitrophenol. OH paranitrophenol. Paranitrophenol. So these are the two different products obtained through two different steps of the nitration of phenol plus H2O. Here also plus H2O. Okay. Then the next one, that is the dehydration of ethanol. Dehydration of ethanol. Dehydration of ethanol. C2H5OH through two steps, K1, K1 dash. Through the first step we will be having ethene, C2H4, or ethylene plus water. Ethylene plus water. Or in the second step we will be having diethyl ether, C2H5O, C2H5. This is diethyl ether. You have to write the name also, plus H2O. Okay, so dehydration of ethanol will be having two different products, ethene or ethylene and diethyl ether. So these are the two different reactions, or two examples for the side chain or parallel side reaction or parallel reactions. Okay. Then the next topic, that is the influence of temperature on reaction rate. Influence of temperature on reaction rate. Influence of temperature on reaction rate. This is very, very important. So the above portion, it is also very important. That is the different types of complex reactions. See here, influence of temperature on reaction rate. It is a usually asked question, and also the problem is important. You have studied this influence of temperature also. That is, it is defined by an equation, and the equation it is called as Arrhenius equation. Arrhenius equation. See, already we have studied that the rate of a reaction, it is influenced by the increase of temperature, isn't it? Rate of a reaction, it is influenced by the increase of temperature. And also, if a temperature increase is done of about a difference of 10 degrees Celsius, if we are raising the temperature to 10 degrees Celsius, what happens is that the rate of a reaction will be increasing, or will be differing by a factor 2 or 3. Okay, so it's a number. So if we are increasing the temperature to more than 10 degrees Celsius, okay, or if we are increasing the temperature of a reaction by 10 degrees Celsius, the rate of the reaction will be increasing by a factor of 2 or 3. Okay, there will be a difference, there will be a hike in the rate of the reaction to 2 or 3. So the ratio of the rate constants of a reaction at two different temperatures. Okay, let the temperature, let it be T1 and T2, and also the difference between these two temperatures, let it be 10 degrees Celsius. Okay, the difference between these two temperatures T1 and T2, and the reaction will be taking place at two different rate constants R1 and rates at R1 and R2, and the temperatures, if it will be differing by 10 degrees Celsius, we can say that the ratio, the value will be equal to, the value will be in between 2 and 3. Okay, so that value we can call it as the temperature coefficient. Okay, this particular value we can call it as the temperature coefficient, and it is denoted by the letter alpha. Okay, so if we are conducting a reaction at two different temperatures, and the temperatures will be differing by 10 degrees Celsius, then the rate of the reaction will be changing, or will be increasing by a factor 2 or 3, and that factor we can call it as the temperature coefficient alpha. Okay, so we can write the formula for this temperature coefficient. Temperature coefficient alpha, that is equal to K 35 degree divided by K 25. Normally we are representing the temperatures at 35 degree and 25 degree. 25 degrees room temperature, isn't it? Approximately. So K 35, that means the rate constant at 35 degrees Celsius to the rate constant at 25 degrees Celsius, that will be approximately equal to 2 to 3. Okay, so this is called as the temperature coefficient alpha. So this term, it is also very, very important, temperature coefficient alpha. Okay, then the next is we have to move on to the Arrhenius equation. Arrhenius equation. See here, Arrhenius put forward a relation connecting the rate constant K and temperature of a system. And also it is in the year 1889. So he put forward a relation connecting the rate constant and temperature, and the equation, it is like this: d ln K by dt, that is equal to EA divided by RT square. Okay, so this is the Arrhenius equation. This is also very, very important. d ln K by dt, that is equal to EA divided by RT square. So what is EA here? K is the rate constant in this equation. Then T is the temperature. T is the temperature. What is EA? EA is the activation energy or energy of activation. Activation energy or energy of activation. R is the universal gas constant. Okay, so this is the Arrhenius equation, d ln K by dt, that is equal to EA divided by RT square. Then again, on differentiating this equation, or the original equation, we can write it as K is equal to A into E raised to minus EA divided by RT. This is also another form of Arrhenius equation. K is equal to A into E raised to minus EA divided by RT. Okay, so here EA, it is the energy of activation, and A, both these, they are called as the Arrhenius parameters. A and A are called as the Arrhenius parameters in this equation. So in your problem, sometimes it is asked to calculate the energy of activation and A. So together they are called as the Arrhenius parameters, and also they are a constant value. Okay, both of them is a constant value. Then see, consider the first equation. This is the second equation. So consider the first equation, d ln K by dt, that is equal to EA divided by RT square. Okay, then on integrating this equation, what happens? On integrating, we are putting limits for this integration, that is t is integrated between the limits t1 and t2. Okay, so we can write it as, and K between the limit, integrating between the limits for K between K1 and K2, and for T the limits between T1 and T2. Okay, so on integrating this particular equation, we will be having ln K2 divided by K1 and substituting the limits, isn't it? So d ln K by dt on integration becomes ln K, isn't it? So ln K on substituting the limits, it will be between K1 and K2. So ln K2 minus ln K1, that is equal to ln K2 by K1, isn't it? So that is equal to A by R is a constant value, so we can take it outside. A by R into 1 by T square, isn't it? So again, integral of 1 by T square, I will be writing it here. Integral of 1 by T square, that means it is equal to integral of T raised to minus 2. In the last class itself, I told you the formula for integration. Integral x raised to n is equal to x raised to n plus 1 divided by n plus 1. So integral t raised to minus 2, that is equal to t raised to minus 2 plus 1 divided by minus 2 plus 1, that is equal to t raised to minus 1 divided by minus 1, that is minus 1 by t. Okay, minus 1 by t. So again, integral EA by R in between the limits minus 1 by t between the limits t1 and t2. Then you have to substitute the limits, that is ln K2 by K1, that is equal to EA by R into minus t2 minus 1 by T2 minus, first you have to substitute T2, isn't it? So minus 1 by T2, then minus 1 by T1, isn't it? That is equal to EA by R into minus 1 by T2 plus 1 by T1. So we can write it as 1 by T1 minus 1 by T2. On the left side, ln K2 by K1. ln K2 by K1 is equal to EA by R into 1 by T1 minus 1 by T2. Or again we can write it as ln K2 by K1 is equal to EA by R into, taking LCM, we will be having T2 minus T1 divided by T1 T2. Okay, then after converting this ln to log, how will you change? Log K2 by K1, that is equal to EA divided by 2.303 R, isn't it? So for converting here becomes 2.303 log K2 by K1, and this 2.303 while coming to the denominator, cross multiplying, it will be here. EA by 2.303 R into T2 minus T1 divided by T1 T2. Okay, so this is the equation for activation energy, and for writing, for doing the problems, you have to use this formula. Okay, log K2 by K1, that is equal to EA by 2.303 R into T2 minus T1 divided by T1 T2. If you are knowing the values of K1, K2, T1 and T2, then you can calculate the activation energy, isn't it? By having the values of K1, K2, T1, T2, we can calculate the energy of activation. Okay, so this formula, it is very important. You have to study this by heart. You have to do problem with this formula. Log K2 by K1 is equal to EA divided by 2.303 R into T2 minus T1 divided by T1 T2. Hope you are clear up to this. Then we can move on to the graph. Then again write the equation K is equal to A into E raised to minus EA by RT. This is equation number 2, that is what we have given. K is equal to A into E raised to minus EA by RT. So here we have to convert this equation into equation for a straight line. For that we have to take logarithms on both sides, that is ln K is equal to ln A minus ln E raised to minus EA by RT. That means ln E raised to minus EA by RT, that will be equal to, what is the value? Minus EA by RT, isn't it? So this will be equal to ln A minus EA by RT, isn't it? ln K is equal to ln A minus EA by RT. So see this equation, it is in the form of y is equal to mx plus c. Y is equal to mx plus c, that we can write like this, that is ln K is equal to minus EA by RT plus ln A. Okay, so what about y? Y is this particular term, ln y. Y is equal to ln. Then what about m? What about x? X will be equal to 1 by t, isn't it? X will be equal to 1 by t, and c will be equal to ln A. Y is equal to mx plus c. Okay, and so here x is equal to 1 by t, then y is equal to ln K, and the slope of the equation will be equal to minus EA divided by R. See, it is a negative slope, isn't it? So the slope will be like this. So then we have to plot the graph with x and y, and also 1 by t along the x-axis, isn't it? 1 by t along the x-axis and ln K along the y-axis. We will be having a negative slope of EA by R. Okay, so this is the slope of the reaction, EA by R. Okay, so this also you have to study the graph also. It will be having a negative slope with 1 by t along the x-axis and ln K along the y-axis, and the y-intercept is equal to ln A. What is C? C is the y-intercept. Slope is equal to minus EA by R. It is having a negative slope. Negative slope. Okay. So this much it is regarding the Arrhenius equations. And also you have to see what is an activation energy. Definition for activation energy, that also I will mention. Activation energy, sometimes the definition might be asked. Okay. Activation energy. See, normally the molecules will be having a minimum amount of energy. Okay. The molecules will be having a minimum amount of energy to take part in a chemical reaction. Okay. The molecules should have a minimum amount of energy before they undergo a chemical reaction. That minimum amount of energy that the molecule should have, it is called as the threshold energy, isn't it? That energy, it is called as the threshold energy. But the energy of activation means it is the excess energy to be possessed by the reactant molecules in order to react to give the products. See, suppose if a molecule it is having a particular amount of energy, it is not likely to take part in a chemical reaction. It should have a more amount of, sometimes it should have an extra amount of energy to have collisions, isn't it? Only after collisions they will be coming to products, isn't it? If the molecule it is having some amount of energy, the minimum amount of energy, it is called as the threshold energy, but some extra amount of energy is required by the molecules to have collisions, and for effective collisions only, and after effective collisions only, the molecules will be, reactant molecules will be converting to products, isn't it? So that extra amount of energy to be supplied, that is called as the activation energy. Is it clear? The minimum amount of energy possessed by the molecules, that is called as the threshold energy, and the extra amount of energy that the molecule should have in order to react to give the products, that is called as the activation energy. Okay. The extra amount of energy possessed by the reactant molecules, okay, the extra amount of energy possessed by the reactant molecules, extra amount of energy possessed by the reactant molecules in order to convert it into products. That is called as the activation energy, EA. Okay. And suppose, see, in the x-axis, it is the reaction coordinate, and in the y-axis, energy. Okay. So suppose this is the energy possessed by the reactant molecule. Normally the energy possessed by the reactant molecules will be greater while comparing with that of the products. So for after forming the products, it will be going to lesser energy state, isn't it? So the reactants, it should have a minimum amount of energy, that is the threshold energy. Then it is converted to products. So this is the energy barrier, or this is the threshold energy. The molecule should have a threshold energy. Okay, already it will be having some threshold energy, and then it will be converting to products. Okay, so we can write it as the activation energy will be equal to, how will you calculate the activation energy? Activation energy will be equal to threshold energy minus the energy possessed by the molecules, minus the energy actually possessed by the molecules. Okay, so that difference, the difference between threshold energy and the energy actually possessed by the molecules, that gives the activation energy. Okay. And also different reactions will be having different activation energy. The amount of activation energy varies, depends upon the reactant molecules. Okay. So this is the activation energy. So this also you have to study. This term is also very important. Okay. Next we can go through two problems in this portion. The first one, that is the rate constants of a reaction at two temperatures 823 Kelvin and 893 Kelvin are 1.1 and 6.4 respectively. Calculate the energy of activation. Okay, so what you have to write the data as given. Two temperatures are there. So what is the formula for calculating this activation energy? Log K2 by K1 is equal to EA divided by 2.303 R into T2 minus T1 divided by T1 T2. Okay, so this is the formula. Then again the data given you have to write. What is T1? T1 is equal to 823 Kelvin. Then T2 is equal to 898 Kelvin. Then K1 and K2 are given. So K1 is 1.1 and K2 is equal to 6.4. Okay, then you have to calculate the energy of activation. R you should be put the value in joules, that is 8.314 joule per Kelvin per mole. Okay, joule Kelvin raised to -1, mole raised to -1. Sorry, joule Kelvin per mole, isn't it? Okay, so anyway you have to substitute the values, that is log K2 is 6.4 divided by K1 is 1.1, that is equal to EA you have to find out 2.303 into 8.314 into T2 minus T1, that is 898 minus 823 divided by 898 into 823. So you have to simplify this particular part first, then this particular area, then take the logarithm of that particular value, then these multiply these two. Okay, don't rearrange in this way. You have to calculate all these values. Okay, so this value you have to take into calculate, then this value, then this particular value. Okay, take the logarithm of the value, then you have to calculate EA. And also the answer, it is given in your textbook. It is about 1.4 into 10 raised to 5 joule per mole. Okay, so that you have to find, you have to do the calculation. I don't know the answer it is correct or not, so you have to follow these steps. Okay, so this is how you have to calculate the energy of activation. Okay, so in this case you have to do simplify all these terms. Okay, then only you have to calculate EA. Then one more similar question. The rate constant of a reaction at 25 and 40 degree are 5.7 and 1.64. Calculate the EA and the pre-exponential factor. Again the formula is log K2 by K1. You have to write the formula also. Please don't skip. If the final answer is wrong, even if you will be having 3.5 marks if you are following all the steps. Okay, ln K2 by K1 is equal to EA divided by 2.303 R into T2 minus T1 divided by T1 T2. Then the data given are T1 is equal to 25 degree, so that you have to convert it into Kelvin. Okay, that is 25 plus 273. 298 Kelvin. Then what about T2? 40 degree. 40 plus 273. You have to convert it into Kelvin. 11, 2 plus 1, 3. 313 Kelvin. Then K1 and K2 are given. K1 is 5.7 into 10 raised to minus 5 and K2 is 1.64 into 10 raised to minus 4. Then calculate the EA and pre-exponential factor. Pre-exponential factor means it is A. You have to calculate A. Okay. So first of all, calculate EA, that is log K2 by K1, that is 1.64 into 10 raised to minus 4 divided by 5.7 into 10 raised to minus 5, that is equal to EA divided by 2.303 into 8.314 into T2 minus T1, that is 313 minus 298 divided by 313 into 298. Okay, so from this you can calculate EA. So simplify this term, then take the logarithm, then simplify this term, this also, then calculate EA. Okay, so in your textbook the answer of energy of activation, it is given as 54.48 kilojoules per mole. Okay, 54.48 kilojoules per mole. You have to check the answer. Then the next question is that you are asked to calculate the pre-exponential factor also. Pre-exponential factor means it is A. So you have to write the formula with A. So what is K? K is equal to A into e raised to minus EA divided by RT. Then taking logarithms, ln K is equal to ln A minus EA divided by RT. Isn't it? So you have to find out ln K. Therefore, ln A. ln A is equal to ln K plus EA by RT. So by substituting all the values, we can calculate A, isn't it? That is ln K, you know, K is given. Then EA by RT, it is also known. Then you can calculate the value of A. And also in your textbook, the value of A, it is given as 2.01 into 10 raised to 5 liter mole raised to -1 second raised to -1. You have to check this value also. Okay, so here ln K means you have to substitute K2 by K1. Okay, here also you have to substitute the T1 and T2 values. Okay, so this is how you have to do the problem. So this is a sure problem, so you have to work out this problem also. Okay, so in the next session we will be discussing the collision theory of this chapter. Okay, so please write the notes. Also watch the video on time, otherwise it will be a burden for you. So as I upload the video, you have to watch it also. Don't keep it aside for watching it during the exams. It will be more difficult for you. So please don't waste your time. You have to work hard for these examinations also. Thank you and have a nice day.